It's into the second half at the Vitality Stadium, and with that in mind, it is time for the football show.
The Football Show on Off The Ball.
In association with the faster-than-ever Boylesports app. Multiples made easy and personalised content on every sport. Download it now. Boylesports. Time to play.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
And you're very welcome along to Monday Night Football Show. Richie McCormick here with you, joined tonight by Chief Sports Writer from the Irish Daily Star, Kieran Cunningham, who's in studio for the duration. Keith Andrews is going to be with us a little bit later on, talking the weekend's Premier League action, and we'll also look forward to tomorrow night, and indeed Wednesday's Champions League action, with plenty to look forward to. We're talking about Liverpool's trip to Napoli. We're talking about Spurs and their meeting with Barcelona. But tomorrow night, Manchester United hosting Valencia and Manchester City away to Bundesliga side Hoffenheim. We were looking through the teams actually before we touch on Champions League stuff. The last time that Liverpool were away to Napoli in the Champions League, we were looking through the Liverpool team. I think a couple of people put this out today. Yeah. But scrolling through that is a measure of how far Liverpool have come in the past 8 years, when you consider who started that night.
No, it's extraordinary. I don't have it in front of me, but just from memory, like the midfield was Jay Spearing, John Joe Shelby, and who was the other one guy in midfield?
There was a Jovanovic in there, there was David Ngog in there.
Yeah, the front three was Jovanovic, Ryan Babel and David Ngog. Substitutes. The
team we have here, right? This is actually like Pepe Reina in goal, grand.
Yeah.
Young Kelly at right back, Jamie Carragher, Martin Skrtel, Paul Konchesky at left back. In midfield, Christian Poulsen, Jay Spearing and John Joe Shelby.
Have Liverpool ever fielded a worse midfield in a European game? I can't imagine.
Close on it. Jay Spearing, John Joe Shelby and Christian Poulsen.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to take in there, and none of them are any use.
And you look at the front three they have now, and their front three then was Babel, Ngog and Jovanovic.
Yeah.
And the substitutes used were...
Kyrgiakos was one of them. Joe Cole was another one.
And the other one was?
And they left Maxi Rodriguez on the bench. It was, there aren't many teams, to be fair, though, when you look at it 8 years ago to now, are actually exactly the same. But Liverpool
But not that they're exactly the same, but you always thought that even when Liverpool weren't as competitive as they are now, you always had this perception they were always fairly decent, but like that Roy Hodgson, it was a brief spell, but it was a very bleak spell for Liverpool fans. The Liverpool fans have no time for them, because they look back at the likes of Poulsen and Konchesky and said, how could you think they were good enough?
It's kind of easy to brush under the carpet, but I think that at the time they were dealing the bargain bin for good reason, because I think the previous American lads were still in charge. The influx of Bostonian cash had still to come in, and they were left rooting around for the Christian Poulsens and Joe Coles of this world in terms of what they could buy in a summer, because they weren't exactly flush at the time, and Hicks and Gillette didn't want to spend. No,
that's fair enough. That's a fair enough point. And you look at that was 2010.
2010.
Yeah, so 2 years earlier they spent 20 million. Robbie Keane, and that was a big deal for Liverpool at the time to spend 20 million. And he was sent back to Tottenham after a few months.
Given the bums rush fairly quickly. Yeah. So we'll be talking Champions League a little bit later on. We'll also with Keith go into further detail on Manchester United and just what went wrong at West Ham for them on Saturday lunchtime. A fairly damning indictment of the way things have gone the last while. Is that I don't think this result necessarily was unexpected, which is not something that Manchester United fans would be happy to hear. But they do seem, in the immortal words of Evan Dando, rudderless at the moment, because there doesn't seem to be any... I don't know, we kind of think of Jose Mourinho's side as being fairly pragmatic, one that's hard to break down, but one that will always score goals, possibly on the break, and perform well. There's none of that at the moment. They're pretty disorganised, dishevelled. And when you see leaks, I was reading Samuel Lucker's speech earlier on from the Manchester Evening News. He was talking about a source from inside the Manchester United dressing room said they were all shocked that Scott, and they couldn't make sense of the fact that Scott McTominay started in a back three on Saturday. That kind of stuff.
But stuff is leaking all the time. You see the stuff that's regularly coming out about the relationship between Pogba and Mourinho. You see Neil Costa's story in The Sun today about a telephone conversation between Zidane and Mourinho, over Zidane apparently saying he's not interested in the job, telling Mourinho this. And it was actually put up at the press conference today, and Mourinho put the question to Neil Costas, is this called true? But Costas, in fairness, has a track record. He's got a few decent United stories right over the years, so you just wonder who is leaking all this stuff. Like, and I don't think it's one individual. I think there's a lot of people, and that's a sign of an unhappy dressing room. And it's a sign of an abdication of responsibility as well by a lot of the players. I think they're just pinning all the blame on Mourinho, and they're not performing. And some of them, you look at Sanchez, what he's done or hasn't done since he joined January on massive money, and you go, you know, is that Mourinho's fault, or is this guy just cruising?
Well, when you look at it, the evidence suggests at every club that the players are always going to outlast. They're the ones who get 5-year contracts, not the managers. The managers usually get 3-year contracts. And if you look at Mourinho, he's a 3-year contract man. I mean, we're into year 3, and everybody talks about Mourinho in terms of year 3 as being the imploding year.
Yeah, and I wonder, does that become a self-fulfilling prophecy now? Because like everybody talks about it so much that there's extra scrutiny and pressure maybe in the 3rd year.
But on that, like there was Gary Neville raised the point of the weekend. Like he was talking about the lack of football people above Mourinho have contributed to the lack of direction. And what a goal that is. It is Patrick Van Aanholt from the left-hand side, pardon me for the interruption, has just fired Crystal Palace level away to Bournemouth. A fantastic finish, great bit of work by the Dutch left-back out on the left-hand side of the Bournemouth box. We're just awaiting a replay on this one.
One of the most underrated players in the Premier League.
He absolutely is. It was a long diagonal ball, found its way over to Van Aanholt. He controlled it brilliantly, played the ball inside to Zaha. Zaha turned, pivoted, given far too much time in possession, rebounded off one of his own players, found its way back to Zaha, who played Van Aanholt in, and Van Aanholt is about a yard offside. Yes. If that replay is to be suggested, he checks back in, takes it on his right and fires past Asmir Begovic, and Palace are level, and through a couple of pieces of rather sizable luck on their behalf as well, Bournemouth will go mad and have every right to go mad, as Barry Davis once said. But getting back to United, Neville mentioned that there isn't football people above Mourinho to dictate where the club should be going. They're more interested, as you mentioned earlier in the news round, about Twitter followers and turnovers, etc. But ultimately, they're the people who appointed Jose Mourinho in the first place, so they should also be culpable for installing him. And on that, nowhere has Jose Mourinho had a record, like he's had a successful record wherever he's gone. But what Manchester United seemed to be in need of was someone to set forth a plan, someone to say, this is the way Manchester United are going to play for the next 3-4 years, and we're going to build something here. Even if the Guardiola thing is absolute nonsense in Man City and he ends up going at the end of next season, at least he's set forward a style and a way of setting up the club in terms of its first team, of how they're going to play, the way they want to play football, the way they want to recruit players, etc., etc. Yeah. There is none of that at Manchester United. Is literally slinging excrement at the wall, seeing what sticks, and hoping that Mourinho, with his track record, as he mentions, more Premier Leagues combined than every other manager in the league, will actually manage to muster something out of it. And it just seems like oil and water at the moment, and nothing's going to work. Like, he's going to be there for 3 years, everybody knows it, and he's going to leave the same mess that he inherited from Louis van Gaal.
No, that's a fair argument, and I think, you know, when you do mention his track record there, his track record is phenomenal. And like, he will, whenever he retires, people will look back and go, what he'd done in so many different countries was an astonishing achievement, and something that we might never see again. But the more I think about Mourinho, remember what Pep Guardiola did when he left Barcelona? He went to New York and took a year out. And if you look at Mourinho's career, he's gone from Porto to Chelsea to Inter Milan to Real Madrid, back to Chelsea to Manchester United, moving country, moving his family, going into virtually all really high pressure jobs. And, you know, now, as everybody keeps pointing out, living in a hotel for the last couple of years, doing his lifestyle, dismantling the Corby trouser press.
He's got a 12-inch plate for the buffet as well.
But he's a guy that probably, you know, burnout is a huge phenomenon now with middle-aged men in particular.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about this, Kieran.
I'll tell you about it. But it is a huge, it is a growing problem, and there's no reason why football managers should be exempt from it. And somebody like him looks to me completely burnt out and frazzled. He looks like he should have gone to New York for a year like Guardiola and read Allen Ginsberg and paid a pilgrimage to the site of CBGBs, and they're just chilled out.
Can you imagine that's the kind of thing that Mourinho would be into?
No, but he should, well, maybe not New York, but he should have done something. Even lie on a beach for a year.
Did he though? After the Chelsea gig, he did take time out, didn't he? He was like, there was
before Inter?
No, after Chelsea the second time around. There was an offer to come into
but
Manchester United was kind of
short. It was only months, though, wasn't it? It was short enough.
Well, it's long enough for him. I think he was about 9 months out of the game, ultimately, which is a decent enough break. You're going to not have many people.
But did he have a break? Did he, what did he do? Like Guardiola seemed to switch off for a year, just get out of it, tune out for a year.
There's an element that Luis Enrique has done the same thing as well, post-Barcelona, that he just went away and went, do you know what, just need a break from it. And ultimately you'd probably do. Like if you're doing any one job for any extended period of time, and I don't suggest that we're going to get many tweets in terms of sympathy for Jose Mourinho right now. If you're doing any job that high profile, that, I suppose, that swallows up that much of your day in and day out, it's not the easiest on the old brain. No matter who you are.
No, absolutely. And, you look, like Klopp had a decent enough break before he took the Liverpool job. And I think he probably needed that after Borussia, because his last season at Borussia Dortmund was pretty crap.
The shambles.
Yeah. So he probably needed to, just hit the reset button and say, where am I going in this? So I just think he looks wrecked and tired and weary and frustrated and unhappy with life and himself and Manchester United and footballers. He reminds me in many ways of Graham Souness. Like Graham Souness is a brilliant pundit now, but it comes out in his punditry fairly regularly that footballers annoy him. And I think it's
modern footballer annoys him.
It's rooted in his last couple of years of management, I think. And I see that with Mourinho now. I think footballers getting on his nerves big time.
There might be something in that. Jamie Carragher was on Monday Night Football, obviously, tonight, and he says that he had a conversation with Mourinho, and something in and around what you're circling around there, Kieran, came up.
The problem with that is it's now the third time it's happened. It started at Real Madrid with Casillas, Ramos. When it happened at Chelsea, Hazard and other players there. Now there's talk of a group led by Pogba at this club. So there's no doubt there's massive problems there. And what tells me that, first of all, is when we look at the sprints from the weekend. Now, I could come on this show every Monday and say, someone has to be bottom. Someone has to be bottom. But it's not so much that the bottom. It's the fact that, look at how many sprints Wolves made compared to Manchester United. So from the bottom team to the next bottom, it's a huge gap. That's the big problem. Also, the biggest problem of being bottom is they were losing the game from very early in the game. Now, you do the stats as a manager with different teams. I've had them as players. You normally always run more when you're losing, and especially an early goal. There was the goal in the first, 10, 15 minutes of the game. So you should be chasing the game. So they should be right at the top. And if you actually look at the top, people may say, the smaller teams do a lot of running because they don't have the ball. But look at Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, right at the top. And those are teams that dominate possession. So that's not enough. And the big thing for me was there's an interview I read at the weekend from Rui Faria, Jose's assistant.
Ex-assistant.
Ex-assistant. And he was speaking about the players they had at Chelsea. And whatever they said, those players went with. Lampard, Drogba, Terry. And he was saying about the difference in the players now. They think they know it all. They've always got an answer. So that's really Jose speaking as well. And I'm not speaking out of turn. I had a conversation with Jose Mourinho after he left Chelsea. He was manager of the soccer aid team, a charity game. And it wasn't just me and him, so I'm not betraying confidence. There was 4 or 5 people there. And the big thing he said he learned from the Chelsea was that you couldn't single out a player in a meeting in front of the other players because the players don't accept this now. But it looks as if he has gone back to that or still doing that at Manchester United. He stripped Pogba of the captaincy, which I agree with, but it sounded like it was in front of the players. And the players don't want that now. They don't. And that's why he's going to lose, or he has lost the dressing room, and it's not the first time.
Cuddles and not hairdryers, Kieran. That's what the players want.
Yeah, but it's unusual for someone to quote somebody from a soccer aid game.
Something useful coming out of a soccer aid game.
Yeah, probably playing midfield with Robbie Williams and Bez. And so he's taken seriously something that
Bez is on bargain hunt.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
There you go.
Okay. But no, cuddles. Do they want cuddles?
Seemingly.
Yeah, well, you kind of see that. Like, it was interesting when Daniel Sturridge scored against Chelsea, Jurgen's Klopp reaction. He turned and, as you say, cuddled Mo Salah sitting on the sideline. Did he think Mo Salah needs a hug because I took him off and his rival
Probably
scored?
Does.
Yeah. So that's kind of what goes through player and managers' heads these days, which is... doesn't sit well with a lot of...
they're care workers, essentially, rather than coaches.
Yeah.
It's a matter of just guiding the natural talent in towards doing what it does best.
Yeah, but you do hear that across sport now, that the old school approach of being hard to people to their face, like, I don't mean necessarily roaring, shouting, but even criticising someone in their face, people don't take it well anymore.
Well, does that not come back to a problem of acquisitions for Manchester United? Because you would presume that after 3 summers, essentially, that Jose Mourinho would have brought in most of that side and should therefore have...
But has he? But see, that's one of the big questions. Like, did he want Pogba? It's very debatable. And that's one of their biggest acquisitions.
Well, that's got to be a damning indictment of Manchester United then, because he's either brought in the players knowing what kind of people they're like as well and whether or not they would fit into his management style, or he's completely ceded power in a couple of instances and that has ended up wrecking his entire outlook at Manchester United. And either way, it's not really speaking well to him.
Yeah. Well, I think Pogba was bought for business reasons. In the first 3 weeks he was at the club, they sold £200 million worth of replica jerseys with his name.
That's a misnomer. That money goes like that came up with Ronaldo going to Juventus. That money goes to Adidas, and similarly with Pogba going to Manchester United, the guts of that cash goes to Adidas. It actually very little of it. It has a bit of a bump, but it's not necessarily the main income driver for football clubs.
Okay.
So, whether the jersey thing or not is a bit of a red herring, I don't know. Speaking of red herrings, Richard Keys was on beIN Sports, as he tends to be over the course of the weekends.
Yeah.
He was discussing one Royston Keane.
Yeah, but when you say great players, was Roy a great player? What? He was in the sense of, I'm talking of a Hoddle or a creative type.
Do you know what, I'll be honest, I used to think
those players are frustrated by lesser...
I used to think that, right? Because all these accolades come out about Roy Keane and how he was at Manchester United, all that, and I used to think, like, I don't get it. I used to train with him all the time with Ireland and stuff, and I used to think, like, he's bang average in training, and like, I just didn't quite get it. And then I remember Mick saying to me, listen, I want you to play centre midfield. I can't even remember who we were playing, and it was me and Roy in the middle of the park, and after 90 minutes I come off and I thought, I know what that's all about now. You give it away, he wins it back. He demands the best from all the players.
Yeah, I
He's all over
not
the
what
park.
I was saying. You asked my earlier question so eloquently. Maybe you can this one. But what I'm saying is, he was the phrase "water carrier." No, he was much better than that. He was a magnificent captain and leader. But was he a top player, conductor, orchestrator? Yes, he was a great player. Yes, he was a wonderful leader. But he wasn't a magician in the sense of. See, the argument was. Top players, Bobby Charlton, really struggled to go and pass on what they knew and motivate others because they get frustrated. But Keane was he was that, wasn't he?
I think you'd overlook his ability as an actual footballer because of the image that he's got. I think we all look at Roy being someone who's in for the fight and shouting and screaming and pointing fingers. Yeah, he had all that, but he could play as well. He could read the game really well. You know, he never really give it away. Yeah, he wasn't one of these players who's going to spank you 50 yards diag to feet. He had it in his locker to do it, but he very rarely chose that option. He always chose the easy option, or to give it then, to win it, give it to Scholesy. Scholesy would then open up.
I'd have him in my team.
All day long.
So would I, and you know I would. But you know what I'm saying?
No, he wasn't a Glenn Hoddle. He was not a Gianfranco Zola. He's not an Eden Hazard.
No.
He wasn't like that. No. Yes, I get you. He wasn't like that. He didn't manipulate the football. He didn't take it and say, right, I'm going to keep this and beat 4 or 5 players and chip it in the top corner. No.
I think Souness would have had a pocket in his shorts for him.
Graham Souness would have had a pocket in his shorts for Roy Keane. Would Roy Keane have gone willingly, is the question that follows on from that. Yeah, it's nice to see the Keys and Gray are still earning a living.
It is. I know both of them, I have to say.
Do you?
From years ago, because Andy Gray did a column with us for a fair few years. So, and he was over for a few kind of, like I remember we did a promotion night before 2010 World Cup at the Viva, and he was there, Marco Tardelli and various people on a panel, but... and he was over with Keys a couple of times when I met Keys, but it's an interesting one. During Euro 2012, they did their TalkSport programme over in Poland, and I did it with them one morning in a hotel. It was in their hotel room in Poznan or something.
Oh, here we go.
No, but there's no great scandal.
What's the Keys and Grey hotel room like?
Just like any hotel room.
Come on.
It was a nice enough hotel, so Mick McCarthy was staying in the same hotel, so it's a good hotel.
Gets better.
Yeah. But they... what struck me was how well connected they are, because one of the stories I talked about that day was there was a proposed takeover bid of Rangers with a consortium led by, or Walter Smith was either leading it or involved in the consortium.
The figurehead, I think.
Yeah, and during the ad break, we were talking about this, during the ad break, Walter Smith rang Keys on his mobile and give him some info. So, like, that's, they had...
He's the proto Jim White.
Yeah, they had so many connections within football, but this thing is just, this is an apples and oranges thing, because, of course, Roy Keane is nothing like Glenn Hoddle, but it's like to be honest, it reminds me of the Eden Hazard thing now. People straight away saying he's the best player in the Premier League. Virgil van Dijk might be the best player, but how can you compare a central defender and an Eden Hazard? So, like, what does that, you're getting into, I know Keane and Hoddle are both midfielders, but they're so different. Like the Peter Reid thing, Peter Reid was a decent player.
I'll stop you there, Kieran. Peter Reid has played at as many World Cups as Roy Keane has.
But is it about World Cups? That's...
But is Peter Reid a top player as compared to Roy Keane?
But it's funny, because I have heard this brought up before. Do people in Ireland overrate Roy Keane? And I don't think they do. I honestly think there were, like Andy Gray makes that point there, that United wouldn't have won anything like they did under Ferguson only for Keane. He just drove. Like, consider this. Like, if Roy Keane was playing for Liverpool in a lot of those years, would Liverpool have gone without a title? I think he would have made the difference. Yeah. Like, as just one player going to them. Because he was just he was a force of nature thing. But it's, this thing, Souness would have him in his pocket. It would be quite a battle. You wouldn't know who had won that, but I wouldn't...
Someone's coming out with a broken leg.
Yeah, it'd be pretty brutal, because I saw somebody actually put up a clip today of a throw ball between Gary Speed and Roy Keane, and it was just ferocious. Like Keane won the ball, and what he did to win the ball, like, it was just... You just swing and keep swinging.
Yeah, absolutely. Fowler's God on Twitter, I don't know who he sports, says it was Europa League under Hodgson. Indeed it was. 6 months that Liverpool fans would rather forget, and an era that defined supporter-led protests and bringing the club owners to account. Keep your tweets and texts coming at Off The Ball on Twitter. You can text us 53106 for 30 cents. Mr. Keith Andrews joins us next.
Football on Off The Ball.
In association with the faster than ever Boylesports app for exclusive price enhancements on the biggest games around. Download it now. Boylesports. Time to play.
The Pat Kenny Show.
On tomorrow's programme, as well as all the breaking news, as the Dáil prepares to debate the abortion bill, we'll speak to a GP who does not want to perform abortions. The Holiday from Hell, ITV's hit comedy Benidorm takes to the stage. We're living longer, so how can we age better? And Jess Kelly will be in studio to answer all your tech questions. Get in touch by emailing patkenny@newstalk.com.
The Pat Kenny Show.
With MasterCard.
Tomorrow morning at 9.
On Newstalk.
When you're a first-time buyer, it's first things first. So when finding a great low fixed rate is all that matters right now, Ulster Bank's new First 5 mortgage has you sorted. We've 5 great benefits, including the lowest 2-year fixed rate in the market. Just search Ulster Bank First 5. Ulster Bank. Help for what matters. Lowest rate claim source bonkers.ie, 29th of June 2018. Maximum loan to value is 90%. Security and insurance required. Product fees may apply. Over 18s and residential mortgages only. Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply. Credit facility subject to repayment and financial status. Warning, your home is at risk if you do not keep up payments on a mortgage or any other loan secured on it. Warning, if you do not meet the repayments on your loan, your account will go into arrears. This may affect your credit rating, which may limit your ability to access credit in the future. Warning, you may have to pay charges if you pay off a fixed rate loan early. Ulster Bank Ireland DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Cash in when you switch to 3SIM only today. We'll give you a free 3 Money prepaid MasterCard with €20 to spend however you like. No long contracts, just all you can eat data with loads of calls and texts. Cash in today at 3.ie or your local 3 store. 3. Make it count. Subject to 3 Money registration, 30-day minimum term, all you can eat data, ROI only. The 3 Money prepaid MasterCard is issued by Prepaid Financial Services Limited. PFS Limited is authorised by the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK and is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland for conduct of business rules.
Come in, Agent. HQ, this is Agent Deirdre. Go ahead. Observations on human cleverness this week. The humans continue to iron their undergarments. An exhausting activity to which we can see no point whatsoever.
Nobody sees them.
However, they have been clever enough to switch to Energia. where they get Ireland's cheapest dual fuel bundle.
Which is good, given their obsession with ironing underpants.
Very good, little humans. Save and save again with Energia.
Switch to energia.ie.
Based on average annual usage, discounted unit rates, standing charge, PSO levy and carbon tax. Prices September 24th, 2018 and subject to change. T's and C's and early termination fee apply. Estimated annual bill €1,534. Verification energia.ie/EAB.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
We're back. Kieran, we're back. Put the old earpieces in. It is 1-1 at the Vitality into the last 16 and a half minutes. Have to get my readers on for that one. Bournemouth won. Crystal Palace won, the latest score in the Premier League. It also finished 1-1 at Stamford Bridge on Saturday evening. A rather pulsating draw between Chelsea and Liverpool. Joining us on the line to discuss that and a whole lot more is Keith Andrews. Good evening, Keith.
Evening, lads. How are we?
Not too bad, not too bad. We'll start with that game at Stamford Bridge. We anticipated that this one not necessarily could go a long way to defining championship talk, but it could give us a better sense of which one of these two sides was going to be there, I suppose, in the latter part of the season. This season, we got the answer, which is we're going to have both of these teams right up there towards the end of the season. They both looked, in their own right, very, very good.
Well, I think Chelsea have been a surprise, haven't they? I think everybody, or the vast majority of people, would have anticipated Liverpool making up some ground that maybe challenging Man City over the course of the season with the squad strength that they acquired over the summer. Sturridge coming back looking sharper and fitter than he has in years. But Chelsea have been the surprise. They've joined this party for the time being. Not quite sure it'll last, if I'm perfectly honest. There's a couple of issues that don't entirely sit well with me. And I do think they are still so reliant on Eden Hazard. Whereas when you look at the other sides, De Bruyne has been out for Manchester City, for an example. Can't say they've missed him too much, really. And the same can be said about Liverpool. If one of them is missing, I think Shaqiri, Sturridge can do a job for 6-8 games.
What are those misgivings you'd have about Chelsea? You mentioned Eden Hazard, them being reliant so heavily upon him to spark something in the final third. Is there anything else that kind of sticks out like a sore thumb for you as regards Chelsea?
Yeah, he'd be the big one, Rich, if I'm honest. And also the number 9. I wouldn't say it's a problem because I do think they bring different qualities to the table. I think Morata is just simply struggling on confidence. Doesn't look the same player as we seen this time last year when he started ever so well. And Giroud does provide a really good physical presence and base for them to play off. But you compare that to some of the other sides and what they've got available as an out-and-out number 9. I think they are lacking in that area. And the other issue for me is the midfield dynamic of Jorginho, who I do think has started very well. So in possession, I think he's brilliant. But where Kante is playing to the side of him and getting into advanced areas, I just think you're detracting so much from what he can bring to the table.
Are they not more covered in that respect in that they have now back four and a pretty settled back four, and somebody like David Luiz, who seems to play again for the third or fourth time in his career, a player reborn, this time under Sarri?
Yeah, he's rejuvenated again, isn't he? I think they've got options in those areas, and in midfield, it certainly looks like Jorginho is going to be his go-to guy, the one that will sit in front of the back forward. And Elena, Ross Barkley is looking decent at times. Loftus-Cheek not getting an absolute look in at all. Fabregas having to be patient. So I do think they've got options. I just worry about that balance of where Kante is playing, because we all know what a magnificent player he is, and I just think you're taking away from his game. And on the flip side of that, when they are playing open, expansive football, I do think Azpilicueta will back up play, but Alonso and on the left-hand side, if you haven't got Kante in that defence-minded role, sweeping up, mopping, stopping the counter-attack, and it's reliant on Jorginho doing it, then it's chalk and cheese in terms of the qualities they bring to the table in terms of getting the ball back and covering for expansive fullbacks.
It seems an odd choice by Sarri that he went out of his way to sign Jorginho. I mean, they almost pretty much came hand in hand to Stamford Bridge in the summer. I mean, there were, as you mentioned, more glaring aspects of that squad that needed altering. That number 9 position, they tried their best, I think, to ship out Alvaro Morata, and he would have been pretty happy to go by all accounts as well, because it just hasn't worked, hasn't fired from there at all. And Olivier Giroud, despite his physical presence and despite, you know, his pretty consistent performances, by any stretch, Olivier Giroud is your backup option if you're a top-level team and looking for a number 9 or looking for a centre-forward.
Yeah, I think with the Jorginho one, he loves him. I think it's as simple as that. And he wanted somebody to plonk right into the middle of the team that was going to get how he wants to play. Because what he has done in the short term has been amazing, Sarri, because this contrast of styles, the contrast of system than we've seen under Conte, obviously, and even before that, a very defensive, pragmatic approach under Jose Mourinho. This is vastly different. So to get it going as soon as they had has been very impressive. And I think Jorginho has been key to that, because everything they do in possession starts through him. Fullbacks high and wide, certainly wide, not as high as maybe Liverpool's and Man City's fullbacks. But Jorginho is that key for the first initial press of playing through the thirds. He's been vital to all that. And top end, I agree. I think if they could have got a good chunk of the Morata money back, or got a good loan, maybe a swap deal of some description for another top striker. I think Sarri wanted Higuain. I don't think that was any secret, but he chose to stay in Italy and go to AC Milan. So I think if you had got a Higuain into that starting lineup, I think you'd have seen even better Chelsea.
There's a lot to be said though for managers, I guess, bringing those kind of lieutenants with them from another club who can instill, especially when you're going to change things, not necessarily as radically, but for Chelsea, having operated under Conte with a 3-4-3 and a very rigid 3-4-3 the past couple of seasons, to revert it to a back four, to have somebody like Jorginho operating in midfield like he's doing, it makes a lot of sense for a manager to bring a guy who knows exactly what he wants tactically to bring to a side, to bring him along with him to a club from his previous one. I don't know if you've ever encountered that before in your previous life as a player, Keith.
Yeah, I agree, Rich. I'm not quite sure I've witnessed it myself, but I totally agree. And if you actually look at the way he plays for Chelsea, he is the conductor. There's no two ways about it. The distance that he makes up in between phases of play, where he's running from one side of the pitch to the other, to always be available to recycle the possession. He is literally telling players what positions to go in, so wingers not coming in. He's orchestrating everything that his manager would want from the sideline. So it's a vital relationship that they clearly have.
Yeah, on the Liverpool side of things, Jurgen Klopp after the game said they possibly deserve more than a point. They had their chances, and that Daniel Sturridge strike towards the end deserved at very least a point. It was a fantastic goal from the striker. But they seem to be lacking something in the final third that they had last year. They're already, I think, 5-6 goals behind Manchester City in terms of goals scored already this year. It's not necessarily firing the way it was from last year, although they do look more solid at the back.
Yeah, I think that's the key, Rich. I think they don't need to score as many goals this season as what they would have last year, because they haven't got a ropey goalkeeper. They've got a rock-solid centre-half who's conducting things in a very different fashion than what Jorginho does. But he's a leader, Van Dijk, and how he leads that team, marshals them, keeps the distances between the midfield and the back four really, really tight. And when they're in good attacking positions, he's constantly organising to ensure that they're not counter-attacked on very, very easily. In terms of the top end of the pitch, Salah hasn't really got going to the same levels, although he is getting into good positions. It's just bizarre, really, if you're looking at him. You think maybe he's a little bit short of confidence. How? I don't know, because he should be on top of this world. I mentioned he's still getting into the same positions. Surely he's not fearing the likes of Shaqiri or Daniel Sturridge, because I don't really feel there's any need for that. But they certainly have better options now to come off the bench and make an impact, and Saturday was a prime example of that.
Keith, I was just thinking about this today on the Salah situation, and thinking back to when Fernando Torres came to Liverpool. In his first season, he scored 33 goals, and he had another 17 seasons as a pro, and the most he scored in a season was 22. And last season, Salah, his first season in Liverpool, scored 47, but he's been a pro for 8 years, and no other season has he scored more than 19. I just wonder, like, that was a freakish season really for Torres, that first one. Was last season the same for Salah? Was it complete outlier, really?
I do think it was a freakish season, yeah. I think to get anywhere near it was probably unrealistic on his thinking that. I genuinely think if he gets 25 to 30 goals, it's been a magnificent season. And if he continues to get around that type of goals, look, he's not an actual striker, let's not forget. He's a forward, but he's not a winger either. He's given license to play narrow and at times not track back with the system that they have with an extra midfielder to be able to cover fullbacks that bomb on. But I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's unrealistic for us to think that. And if he does get 25 to 30 goals, which I still think he will, then it's a magnificent season.
Yeah, there might be a couple of things that are impacting on him, like the injury of the Champions League final, and even as a psychological blow, I think, because there was so much expectation and pressure on him going into that. Then that impacted on him in the World Cup, which was a huge deal for Egypt. And also he's had the row with image rights over his image rights with Egypt that's been going on for months. And I wonder if that just had some kind of effect on him. And the other thing is he tends to cut in onto his left. Have people copped on to that a little bit? That he does the same trick quite a lot.
I think that it was still happening a third, halfway through last season. When you're doing scouting reports on the opposition, he obviously favours coming in on the left. But even you can only do so much as a team to stop that. And he was still getting into those areas. They were forcing him down one way, but he has this unbelievable knack to be able to still work it onto his left foot or just barrel his way through situations where he's done it that often. It can't be a fluke. So there's those exterior factors that I'm sure have played a part without a shadow of a doubt. The disappointment of the Champions League, obviously the World Cup, carrying the weight of a whole nation. And image rights, things when things like that get public, they're never nice, especially for someone who certainly traditionally has kept things very, very private. He's not one we see, do we, on front pages of newspapers.
Keith, I want to turn to events at the London Stadium on Saturday lunchtime. A 3-1 defeat for Manchester United. Things going from bad to worse for Jose Mourinho. He's back out in front of the cameras today ahead of the game with Valencia, saying that he's not going to divulge whether or not he's spoken to Ed Woodward. He's saying that some players perhaps try harder than others within that Manchester United squad. And an interesting quote from Jamie Carragher, I don't know if you saw it ahead of tonight's game at the Vitality, saying that he spoke to him, believe it or not, the Soccer Aid game a couple of years ago after he left Chelsea for the second time. And Mourinho told him at the time that the one thing he learned in that second spell at Chelsea was that you can't single out a player in front of other players, but it looks like he's gone back on that, says Carragher. And when you think of talk of the situation with Pogba, there's now talk of a falling out on the training pitch with Alexis Sanchez and maybe one or two others as well. It seems like he has gone to singling out a couple of players, whether they need it or not. And I don't know, current players don't seem to react well to that kind of thing. Is that an indictment of him, or is that an indictment of the current manager, or does the blame lie somewhere in between?
All of the above, Rich, I think. I don't think anybody's coming out of this smelling their roses. I really don't. And that goes right from the top of the football club all the way through it. Manchester United are falling behind the other big sides, and not just on the pitch. I'm talking about everything that's going on in the football clubs, right down to the academy. You've only got to look across the city of Manchester City and what they're doing, the money they're spending, how they're going about their business, the style in which they're playing football. Mourinho has to change. It's as simple as that for me in his man management style, because the way you managed a group of players 10, 15, 20 years ago, you can't do it anymore. There's never been more power to footballers than there is right now. You've only got to look at Pogba as a prime example with 30 million social media followers or whatever it is. And that, to the board, is music to their ears because they know what they have commercially. In terms of nailing players on one-to-one basis, I felt even in my career that it was starting to dwindle out. You never really used to have those heated one-on-ones in the dressing room environment. It was more collective. And I was always one that wanted, managers to call people out. Because in Manchester United's case, I think it's fairly evident. There's talk about today about Mourinho saying some players are caring more than others, some are giving more than others. Yeah, I know that. That's the problem. But his problem is he hasn't been able to control that, and at this stage, it's spiralling out of control.
Like at some stage, somebody above both Pogba and Mourinho and everything here has to yell stop, because it's the club ultimately that are paying. Because there is a fairly decent scenario that could arise whereby neither of them are at the club next year, and yet still this mess persists because someone's going to have to mop it up and fill a hole in midfield as well. Yeah,
but first thing I said to you, Rich, was I don't think they can hold their heads high in any of this affair either. The way they've dealt with transfer sagas over the summer, you could tell very, very early on in that window that the relationship wasn't particularly good between the hierarchy at Manchester United and Jose Mourinho because of Mourinho's quotes in the press. Kept on chipping away during pre-season, kept on saying about needing this, needing that. I've given them a shopping list. And then when it came to the end of it and they didn't get anything in really that they wanted, apart from Fred, which was done very, very early, I thought the writing was on the wall. And then when you add on to that, the type of performances that we've seen, it's worrying times. And I'm with you. I don't know who's going to go first, but I can anticipate a Manchester United, whether that's in January or next season, without both Jose Mourinho and Paul Pogba.
Keith Andrews, thanks so much for taking time to speak to us this evening.
Cheers, lads. Take care.
Nice one. Just to tell you and update you, the Bournemouth have taken the lead at home to Crystal Palace. A penalty awarded by Mike Dean. He saw a forearm left trailing and into the chin of Jefferson Lerma. He was felled in the box, went down like a sack of spuds. Mike Dean pointed straight to the spot. Junior Stanislas stepped up and he chipped the ball down around the centre and left Wayne Hennessy floundering. It is Bournemouth 2, Crystal Palace 1, and there's 2.5 minutes to go in normal time. Now, calling all students, we've teamed up with Vodafone X to fuel your passion for sport by giving you the chance to join Team Off the Ball for a week. God help you. You'll be getting a chance to see what happens behind the scenes of a show, attend a press conference, help report on a match, and even feature as a co-host of a show as well. If that wasn't enough, you'll also receive an iPhone 8 with this year's subscription to Vodafone X Sport, giving you access to 7 dedicated Sky Sports channels to be in with a chance to win. Submit your demo tape and details to offtheball.com/Vodafone X. We'll be looking ahead to the weekend's Champions League next.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
Buying stuff on appliancesdelivered.ie just got a whole lot easier thanks to our friends at Flexify. Because now the qualifying spend is just €500. And you can bundle stuff together. Maybe get a new washing machine or dishwasher, plus a new TV. Whatever you fancy. Or go all out and get up to €15,000 finance approved in minutes. Flexify. Check it out at appliancesdelivered.ie. Fees, terms and conditions apply. Subject to minimum purchase amount, credit assessment and approval. See appliancesdelivered.ie/flexify.
I think it's mad that everyone thinks all insurers are the same. Chill Insurance compares 14 different insurers to get you the best deal. Chill Insurance Limited, trading as Chill Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
At Blackrock Clinic, we offer direct access to our expert team of endoscopy specialists. So if you're concerned about a stomach or bowel issue, we can quickly find the cause and whether it's serious or not. With a referral from your GP, an appointment can be arranged within 24 hours. For access to a world-class endoscopy unit, think first. Think Blackrock Clinic. Blackrock Clinic, when your experience needs ours.
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
We have 2 days of Champions League action coming our way this week, starting with tomorrow night. Leon Blanche from Boylesports joins us on the line. Leon, Jose Mourinho today offering his injury update on the squad. Isn't that favourable? The likes of Ander Herrera, Jesse Lingard and Ashley Young are all going to be missing. This is not the news that Manchester United fans will have wanted, given the recent results in the Premier League in particular. But on the Champions League front, all has been pretty rosy in that garden so far, with that 3-0 victory away to Young Boys a couple of weeks ago. They're facing a Valencia side, Leon, who themselves haven't been in brilliant form, only picked up their first victory of the season at the weekend, and also struggled against the 10 men of Juventus a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, look, Richie, it's a big game for Jose Mourinho and, of course, Manchester United. And they need to get back to winning ways, and quite quickly. The Premier League has been a disaster so far. They're favourites because they're at home. It's a big European night. They're 6-4 on. But not many Boylesports customers are backing Manchester United. And Valencia, as you rightly said, they haven't had the best of starts yet. But they got an all-important win at the weekend. And they're as big as 9-2. But most of the money we're seeing is going on the draw at 13-5. United have got a few injuries. There's obviously problems with Mourinho and some of his players, most notably Paul Pogba. And this is a big game for United. He needs to get back to winning ways sooner rather than later. But I have a feeling Valencia will go there and try and frustrate Manchester United. They'll make it very tight. They'll make themselves compact. And you just wouldn't want to be backing United at odds on at the moment. They're just too hit and miss. Yes, they beat Young Boys.
Go on ahead, Leon.
Yes, they beat Young Boys away from home in the Champions League, but I think Valencia will pose a much greater test.
We're guessing this one's probably going to be a low-scoring affair if previous examples of Manchester United's outings have happened to go by, and the fact that you're yourself leaning towards the draw in this one.
Yeah, look, United, they do have an awful lot of attacking players at their disposal, but for whatever reason, they're just not getting the best out of these players. And look, they scored 1 away against West Ham and they looked a bit toothless. And I feel maybe a European night is the type of game that they need to get back to doing what they can do. They've got an awful lot of flair players, but I don't know why it's not happening for them at the moment. And Valencia, they haven't started great, as you rightly said, in their own domestic league. But I think they can go there and frustrate United. I think it's going to be a very, very tight affair.
We'll move to the other side of Manchester, because Manchester City, that is, opened up with a surprising defeat at home to Lyon last time out, a couple of weeks ago, whereas tomorrow night's opponents, Hoffenheim, picked up a really creditable draw, although threw away the lead a couple of times over in Ukraine. They were playing Shakhtar Donetsk over in Kharkiv. So not the easiest of ties for Manchester City to come through tomorrow night over in Germany.
No, not the easiest of ties, but I think this game will give us goals. I think if you saw the game, obviously Hoffenheim went away, scored a couple of goals, but they also conceded goals. Manchester City, it's not many times that they don't score in any type of game. They were very, very disappointing against Lyon. And maybe the team selection, you have to put the fault at the manager, Guardiola. He didn't pick his strongest team and they paid the price. So it's a big game for City. They need to get back to winning ways in this group, and they need a win. But Hoffenheim are decent at home. They're 13-2. It's a big price for a German team at home in a Champions League game. Manchester City are very, very short price at 11-4 on, but punters are putting them into their Champions League accumulator. And I think with City at the moment, they've been nearly perfect in the Premier League, bar that draw away against Wolves. And as I said, losing that opening game in the Champions League, they'll want to rectify that and they'll want to do it very quickly. And tomorrow night gives them that opportunity. And I fancy City, but I think both teams will score. I think this will be an entertaining game of football, but I think Man City are good enough to go to Germany and get their first win of this year's Champions League group campaign for themselves.
We'll turn our attentions to Wednesday night. Possibly the most intriguing tie of the week comes at Wembley, with Tottenham playing host to Barcelona. Spurs suffering that injury time defeat to Inter a couple of weeks ago. Barca started off the season pretty nicely with a 4-0 victory over PSV. This is a game that Spurs, given where they are in that table, given the fact that they lost in the first night, can't really afford to lose, and yet they have Barcelona in town.
Yeah, and do you know what, Richie? I have a funny feeling with this Barcelona team this year. I think, the likes of Messi, the likes of Suarez, they're not getting any younger. And I think they've got the appetite to go a long, long way in this competition. And I fear for Spurs. They showed so much naivety away against Inter Milan. They had that game leading 1-0, and the 2 goals that they gave away, yes, the first goal was a fantastic strike, but he had so much time and space. And the second goal from a set piece, the defending was awful. And I'm looking at this, and Barcelona at even money, yes, it's in Wembley, yes, they're away from home, but that's a big pitch. And with the likes of Messi and Suarez, they've got plenty of space. And that's when they can cause damage. Spurs are underdogs at home. They're 12-5, and the draw is 13-5. I fancy Barcelona here. I think they're good enough to go to Wembley and get the win. And then it puts Spurs in a very, very difficult position in terms of trying to get out of that group. Look, when the draw was made, we all probably said that this was one of the most difficult groups in the Champions League, and it's proving to be like that. I just think maybe having PSV back-to-back for Spurs, if they were to get 2 wins from that, it might give them a chance, but they've still got to go to the Nou Camp, and they've still obviously got to entertain Inter Milan at home. So for me, Barcelona at even money, I think they're good enough to beat Spurs at Wembley.
Okay, we'll turn our attentions to the other Premier League team who were in action. The last time that Liverpool made a trip to Napoli in the Champions League, they had the likes of Paul Konchesky, Jovanovic playing for them, Christian Poulsen. Things have moved on considerably since then under the tenure of Jurgen Klopp, but they're coming up against the Napoli side who are overseen by Carlo Ancelotti, who know the way around Europe now at this stage as well. So in what is a very tricky looking group, and that Liverpool managed to scrape a win from PSG a couple of weeks ago, this is another game that Liverpool really need to get on the front foot and need to score goals away from home.
Yeah, and look, it's a very tricky tie, but I know it was only a pre-season game, but the way Liverpool dismantled Napoli in the Aviva Stadium the week before the Premier League kicked off, I'm sure that will give Liverpool plenty of confidence. Liverpool, again, you saw the value of the squad against Chelsea. Sturridge coming off the bench, scoring that wonder goal. He got his start in the game. The first game at Anfield, scored a goal, probably could have had 2, maybe even 3. But I think when you look around Liverpool, there's goals everywhere. And I think that's a serious weapon to have. Salah came off against Chelsea, wasn't doing it. You would have never even dreamt of that happening last season. But it goes to show you the confidence that Klopp has in the likes of Shaqiri. Sturridge looks a new player. He looks so fit. He looks so sharp. So it's a tricky game. Always going to Italy away from home is difficult. But you'd have to say, similar to Manchester City, Richie, I think Liverpool have goals in them, whoever they play. So it's going to be an entertaining game of ball. I'm sure Ancelotti will try and frustrate Liverpool. But the one thing that Liverpool have, if Napoli come out and attack, Liverpool are devastating on the counter-attack. It's a tricky game. Liverpool are favourites at 11-10. Napoli underdogs at home at 23-10. And the draw here at 5-2. I'm looking at this group, and I think Liverpool's 2 games back-to-back next time out, they should be able to win both of those. So even if they didn't win here, but they got a draw, it would give them 4 points. And I fully expect them to win those next 2 games, which would give them 10 points. Then you're putting yourself in a very commanding position. Napoli at home won't be easy, but Liverpool fans are backing Liverpool. They're 11-10. That could shorten before kick-off on Wednesday night. It is the early kickoff at 6 o'clock or whatever it is. But I think Liverpool 11-10, it's not a huge price, but I think they're quite capable of beating Napoli. But it should be a very, very intriguing game.
Yeah, the 8 o'clock kickoff, that one is actually in Group C. It's the 6 o'clock, 5-6, sorry, PSG and Red Star Belgrade on Wednesday night. But for now, Leon Blanche, thanks so much for taking time out to speak to us.
All the best, Richie.
There you go, Leon live from NYC. Earlier, we asked you to identify our mystery voice. It was, of course, the one and only Paul Scholes. He scores goals. And congratulations to Stephen Todd, who's won a €50 one for all voucher, and also, most importantly, goes into the draw to win that trip for 2 to see Liverpool take on Napoli in the Champions League on Tuesday, December 11th. And for that winner of the eventual prize, we're also going to throw in €200 spending money. And if you missed out, we'll give you another chance to win tomorrow night. It's all thanks to Virgin Media Sport, with more than 400 UEFA Champions League, Europa League and Nations League games live this season. Virgin Media Sport is exclusive to all Virgin Media TV customers, who can also download the TV Anywhere app and stream all the action whenever and wherever they like. Just to bring you up to date, it's finished Bournemouth 2, Crystal Palace 1, Palace staying 13th in the table, and Bournemouth are up to the lofty heights of 7th and just 6 points off the top. Kieran Cunningham, thank you so much for spending time with us this evening.
No problem.
OTBAM live tomorrow morning at 7:45 on Twitter, Facebook and YouTube. Tomorrow night, the big dog, Kenny Cunningham, complete with hopefully his box of Thunder's cakes, is in studio for Manchester United's make-or-break game against Valencia and the rest of the night's Champions League action. Tom Dunn is up next. Till tomorrow, good luck.
Give him a ball and he out of grass. He'll give you a move for the perfect pass. Give him a ball and he out of space. He'll give you a move with godly grace.